Very warm good evening to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me just thank the Week magazine for having given us this opportunity to showcase before you the tremendous opportunities which come out of, an ecosystem getting developed around a port infrastructure. And I would also like to, before I go into detailed discussion with the panelists, I would like to just give a brief overview on Vizhinjam, which is, slated to be a game changer for the whole country. So in the previous panel, we heard Mr. Girish explaining how Vadhavan could become a mega port, India's first mega port, with about 24 million TEUs per year of container capacity. Now, Vizhinjam is relatively much smaller, but at the same time, it is very unique. And it's possibly in independent India, there has been no major public infrastructure project of this scale which will be a game changer for the whole country in global trade and global commerce. And to understand more, even where Government of India has not dared to dream of this scale and this magnitude, the small state government of Kerala, with limited financial resources, has been having this project in the pipeline, in the drawing boards for close to 30 years. And at the end of those 30 years, now the project has become a reality. Now, just to give you an overview, earlier I heard Mr. Girish talking about PPP, explaining about the various components that are going to come up in Vadhavan and so on. So here also I would like to just give an overview. Mr. Sunil Kumar Ayyappan, one of the panelists, he is a general manager projects from Vizhinjam International Seaport. Now, he represents, this is a PPP project, a public-private partnership project, where I am part of the first P, which is the public, or rather the government, which owns the project. And the second P, the private, the partner, it's a lifelong partnership of 60 years, is represented by Mr. Sunil as part of the Adani team. So Government of Kerala conceptualized this project, followed the model of Government of India in PPP structuring, and came out with a bid process which was won by Adani Ports and SEZ as a private partner. And they formed a company, Adani Vizhinjam Port Private Limited. And it is that company which is, the model is called Design, Build, Finance, Operate, Transfer, DBFOT. So on this model, they have developed a port where under the contract with Government of Kerala, it is mandated to have a 1 million TEU capacity per year, which is the phase one, which is currently operational. And going forward in the next 3 years, this is supposed to have a 3 million TEU capacity per year. So compared to their own Mundra or JNPA, this is a relatively smaller project, but then it's a game changer for the whole country. The reason is, and of course, though we say the nameplate capacity would be 3 million TEU 3 years from now, they are adopting the most modern of equipment and the most modern of technology. So the actual throughput of the project is likely to be closer to 5 million TEU 3 years from now, say by 2028-29 financial year. Now, why is it a game changer for the country? Now, today, when we look at the Indian ports on the eastern seaboard or the western seaboard, typically the cargo from these ports sailing across the high seas to, say, Europe or the US, Europe typically takes anything from 35 to 45 days. The US East Coast, it takes something like about more than 2 months. Possible exemption might be JNPA. So, in fact, that is one of the reasons why, we were in the previous panel, we saw that there is very little cargo originating from India vis-a-vis the huge volumes moving out from China. The reason is the Chinese logistics cost, or for that matter, for any developed economy, the cost of logistics as a part of the cost of the product is just about 8 to 10%, whereas over here in India, our cost is exorbitantly high at about 15 to 17%. And this is what is not making us competitive in the global market. And that is where the port infrastructure and the last mile connectivity to these ports are very critical to make us more competitive. So it's a chicken or egg situation. Unless we have state-of-the-art ports with the best of technology, and unless we have the good last mile connectivity by rail or waterways or roads, we will never be able to compete in the global markets, and we will never achieve the kind of volumes that you see in China or other developed export-driven economies. So this is where Vizhinjam plays a very significant first step. Vadwan would follow, maybe Galatia Bay would follow. All those mega ports, which are the dream of Government of India, would follow. But the first step is being taken by Vizhinjam, where the port is having the advantage of two USPs. The first is a God-given blessing to the state of Kerala. Right at the coastline itself, we have a natural draft of close to 20 meters. So the largest of shipping vessels that are now being run by the major shipping liners, the container mother vessels, can comfortably come and berth at Vizhinjam. The second USP is, coincidentally, being located in the southern tip of peninsular India. Vizhinjam is adjacent to the world's busiest sea route, which handles about 1/3 of shipping movement, and close to 50% of container movement happens just about 10 nautical miles away from Vizhinjam. So with these two advantages, this port today, it's a fledgling port, just about 9 months old, formally commissioned on the 3rd of December 2024. And the Honorable Prime Minister formally dedicated it to the nation on May 2nd, 2025. So this fledgling port is now connected to practically all continents across the world except Antarctica. So you can imagine, with the kind of sailing time the port enjoys with direct connectivity to different major ports across the world, it gives a huge logistics advantage. So practically today, Vizhinjam is India's gateway to the world. So that is the first point. But on the flip side, this world's most modern port infrastructure has become a reality in a fishing village. Vizhinjam has only about 4,000 odd traditional fishing craft, and there's nothing to complement the kind of modern port facility that has come up there. So this particular, today's panel, it's very relevant in terms of the possibilities. Sky is the limit because it's a virgin territory where there's nothing in terms of logistics infrastructure, nothing in terms of the waterside marine infrastructure, nothing in terms of a well-developed export-driven ecosystem to complement the sport which has come up in southern tip of India. So today's topic is that way very relevant. We have two very eminent panelists, the chairman of the Cochin Port Authority, Kasiviswanathan sir, with a very long innings in Indian Railways as well as now in the port sector. And we also have Sunil Kumar Ayyappan, General Manager Projects from Adani Vizhinjam Port Private Limited, who are the port operators for Vizhinjam. Now, the contrast is unbelievable. Sir is heading a port which is going to celebrate its centenary 2 years from now. I think 2028, Cochin Port will be celebrating their centenary. And the other extreme, we have possibly India's most modern port infrastructure, which is just about 9 months old. So we have two different spectrums, two different visions, two different requirements. So in this background, I would like to possibly start with Kasiviswanathan sir. Sir, you are almost 100 years old as a port, and possibly like Mumbai, like Kolkata, or like Chennai, maybe Kochi has evolved in terms of the supporting infrastructure. Now, looking forward, if you just analyze what it is today and looking forward, what is your vision? What is your dream over the next 5 years, or maybe the next 10 years, or maybe the next 25 years beyond your centenary here? We would like to hear from you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sreekumar. Good evening, all of you. And the last session of the day with the extreme well-listening audience. On behalf of Cochin Port, I welcome you all for this panelist discussion. As Mr. Sreekumar told, it's a fact. Cochin Port is completed or completing 98 years. And in another 2 years' time, by 2028, we will be celebrating the centenary celebration of Cochin Port, which was founded by Sir Robert Bristow, which most of you must be aware. Creating a greenfield port, managing the legacy port, and creating a vision for the legacy port. Each one has its own planning, vision, and forethought. Cochin Port, over the years, was almost static in terms of the cargo combination that we had. Predominantly, we are 66% of our cargo is liquid, followed by almost 30+% of container, and balance is our dry bulk and break bulk, which is negligible. So this is the context with which this port was operating, almost we can say for the past many decades. From here, how do we go forward? So what is in store for Cochin Port? The topic is the regional prosperity through ports. Like all of us, many of you must be from Cochin, born and brought up in Cochin. Cochin is privileged to have Cochin Port, around which Kochi as a city got evolved, developed, and flourished. Today, Kerala, in terms of income generated for Kerala, majority is coming from Cochin because of the industrialization which has happened in Cochin around Cochin Port. One of the big thing in Cochin is the BPCL refinery, which has come because the port is there where they can import the crude oil. We have FACT, which is importing all its chemicals through the Cochin Port. And we have the container terminal which had come. I think Cochin was the first port in the country to operate container in 1973. And now our port is handling almost about 8.54 lakh of TUs from the container terminal. This is the status on which we are there. What are we doing or how we will go about? The liquid bulk, which is the prominent part of our port, is having the capacity to expand. So we are working on creating additional about 10 million capacity of handling liquid bulk. Primarily, it will be for bunkering, because Cochin Port is in a vantage location where currently we are doing about 0.5 million, volume of ship bunkering. It will also be supported by other shipping services in the anchor place. So this will be one thing which will happen. And also the chemicals and other non-FSO liquids which is required for the industry around Cochin. They also need additional capacity in terms of the tank forming that is getting developed. Then one of the most iconic part of Cochin is the tourism. Kerala, the God's own country, has not really fully exploited its potential to attract international tourism. Today, when we see the international tourism as a spectrum, US dominates with almost 58% of the tourists of the total about 36 million passengers who are tourists who are going around through cruise tourism. US dominates, followed by Europe. Both of them together contributes about 83% of the tourism. But Asia is contributing only about 7%, followed by Australia and then balance part of Europe. So what can we do? How do we attract this international tourist into Cochin for exploring God's own country, as well as the phenomenal beauty that we have in Kerala, Karnataka, and in the entire West Coast, coupled with the Lakshadweep, Maldives, Colombo, Singapore. Keeping this in mind, the government is pushing hard to develop a ultra-modern home porting cruise terminal in Cochin Port. So on which we will be able to have a home port vessels here, which will be operating the circuit based at Cochin. So this will be one major development which will happen, which will develop the entire island into a dynamic place. Today, the island which was full of activities in the past, before 2011, when the container terminal was operating from here, the entire island was vibrant. But that vibrant island has gone into slowly a silent island. We need to regenerate it with vibrant ecosystem, which will be triggered by the cruise tourism, followed by the ecosystem in terms of we have international ship repair facility, which is operated by CSL in Cochin Port land. Today they are operating about 6 vessels, but with the PPP mode, they will be able to operate the entire 16 berths in the ISRF facility, which will require a lot of ecosystem to be developed around that area, in which we have about 85 acres of land, which we are shortly coming out with a tender, in which the ecosystem required for ISRF will be developed. When ISRF ecosystem plus tourism ecosystem and the warehousing ecosystem, including cold chain, when it comes here, the island will see its life again. Topped up with this, and the whatever liquid bulk that we are promoting, we are also going to be blessed with the huge infrastructure push which is going to happen in Kerala, with centered around Palakkad. So the Cochin Bangalore industrial corridor is coming with the focus on Palakkad, and will also have a focus in Ernakulam with a huge investment forthcoming. It is there in the master plan of the government, by which Palakkad alone will attract about 10,000 crore of, about 9,000 crore of investment from the private entity or from the industrial sector, about 4,000 crore of investment from the government. So this ecosystem, when Palakkad develops and Ernakulam develops, it will be the boon to the Cochin port for its gateway operation. So these backgrounds gives a huge hope for Cochin port. So as Mr. Sreekumar was mentioning, Cochin port is a legacy port, Vizhinjam is a new port, which has to develop the entire ecosystem which is there. Even the current ecosystem which we are having for Cochin port, is it adequate with respect to connectivity? The rail connectivity what we are having is almost saturated. So that connectivity being from railways, I thought I can give you a little more insight in what is in store for the rail connectivity into Kerala up to Trivandrum. So currently the double tracks are available, and which is getting augmented between Pothanur to Soranur to make it more effective. Today, the speed in that section is extremely low with 100% saturation. It has not come into the news, but it will come in the news. It is already partially has been revealed by the government that what is the bottleneck to bring cargo from Coimbatore to Cochin or into Kerala, or from Bangalore to Cochin. The maximum bottleneck happens between Pothanur to Soranur. There is a Walayar Ghat section in which the speed of the train will not be more than 40 kilometers. And huge restrictions in the night because of the elephant pass. So the government is focusing on developing an alternate route via Pollachi, which would be a real boon to us. If we are able to, of course, Pollachi to Cochin, by road also we are able to get comfortably, as and when this 4-lane connectivity is completed, by road it will come, but we will also be able to run short specials from Pollachi to Cochin to enhance our throughput. So 3-lane connectivity from Coimbatore to Soranur is in the process. Mostly it will come via Pollachi. And also from Mangalore to Trivandrum, that entire 3-lane connectivity is in the pipeline. Survey is on. That will also come. But the priority, if you see, the first priority will be Coimbatore to Soranur, Soranur to Ernakulam, and then Ernakulam to Nagercoil. This will be the 3 phases in which it will be working. So we are in good times in terms of connectivity by rail. Road, as we know, this 544 is getting enhanced. Maybe in another 1.5 years, we'll have a complete network connected. 66 also is in advanced stage, and 85 also is in progress. That means the entire ecosystem around Cochin, including entire Kerala, is in the good state. We may have to wait for 2 years. Cochin port will flourish. Vizhinjam also will have a huge connectivity, and Cochin port and Vizhinjam together will be able to make the entire Kerala coast vibrant with logistic and transport support mutually. So with this background, I thought I'll give the perspective of the Cochin port. Now I leave it to Sreekumar for further deliberations.
Sunil, I'll come to you. Sir's talked about a 100-year legacy. Now, you are on totally virgin territory where there is nothing. And today, it's not 99%, 100% of your movement is all transshipment. As Mr. Girish mentioned in his previous discussion, some ship from some corner of the world is bringing somebody's cargo and dropping it into a 75-acre custom-bonded area within your port limits. And some other ship from some other part of the world is coming and picking it up and moving to a ultimate destination or to an intermediate destination. So transshipment is what is happening 100%. Now, you know the local ecosystem there, and you also have some insight into the way Kochi has evolved and developed. Are you confident that you will be able to have gateway movement also, the EXIM or the origin destination movement also happening in the near term? Or, are there huge gaps? And what is your take on it?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to Week. I thank the Week magazine also for the opportunity today. Sir, as you rightly pointed, there is a contrast between Kochi and Trivandrum or Vizhinjam. Kochi is rightly a legacy port and Vizhinjam is a new port. There are merits and demerits to both the issues. Being a new port, we could bring in new technologies like automation. So such merits are there. But of course, the demerits are more in terms of regional, the topic of today's discussion, in terms of regional development, the demerits are more, I would say. Why? Because at this point of time, the surrounding ecosystem, which actually should cater to industrial development or port-led industrial development as envisaged in Amritkal Vision and Maritime Vision, we don't have any enabling infrastructure beside the port. At this point of time, as you rightly know, that land is not available at all. And government is having but the hopeful thing is that the government is having a very good plan of outer area growth corridor around Vizhinjam. That maybe in another 2 years or 3 years, it will maybe even really shaping up and maybe coming up in another 4 or 5 years or 6 or 7 years, it may be coming up. The outer area growth corridor is to give you an overview about outer area growth corridor, which government is planning. Outer area growth corridor is a road and adjoining land emanating from Vizhinjam, and it goes through the eastern side of Trivandrum, where the land cost is relatively less. And government is planning, the road is about 60 kilometers, and patches of industrial area or land is identified by government for industrial growth along this road. So this road is something around 60 kilometers, 4-lane, 6-lane road it is planned. So this has to be rolled out on at least on a long-term basis or medium to long-term basis. That is very much important for Vizhinjam to shape up as a gateway port. At this point of time, I'm not saying that the gateway potential is very less also, because right now we are getting industry inquiry for getting the export-import from Vizhinjam also. Why? Because there is a cost advantage for people to come to Vizhinjam, particularly those who are bound to Europe or US. They have a cost advantage of directly coming to Vizhinjam rather than going to any other port and getting transshipped at Colombo or Vizhinjam. So there is a cost advantage. So some exporters are interested in coming to Vizhinjam, and that may eventually happen with our temporary connectivity, which is going to come up in another 1.5 months. Maybe by October mid or November, we will be able to start the container movement through road. So export-import will be starting, but of course not to the extent of more than 10%, at least for the near future. Why? Because the connectivity is also very minimal, and the enabling infrastructure is also very minimal. Coming to the enabling infrastructure, though the outer area growth corridor, outer ring road, those things are coming on a long term or medium term. But immediately we need enabling things like container freight stations, those things. For that also, government has to swiftly act upon and identify land for CFS and warehouses and people who are ready to invest. Maybe there are many people who are ready to invest and put on empty container yards. Those things has to be developed, but there is no land at all. And coming to the context of Kerala, land is a very precious thing. And what kind of industry can be done in that precious land? That is also a question. What kind of industry which can be planned? And also the cost of land at Vizhinjam is also comparatively very higher. After the NH acquiring the land prices have gone very high in Vizhinjam area along the NH 66. So that is also a kind of impediment for land acquisition. But I believe that I am hopeful that though in a very immediate term, the enabling infrastructure may not be coming, but in a very long term or in a medium to long term, such enabling infrastructure will be certainly coming. And as Sir said, it's a very valid point that Vizhinjam and Kochi will be together creating an ecosystem in the state, a marine ecosystem or a maritime ecosystem in the state, which is complementary to both the ports. And it will also giving a very boost to the Kerala economy, because Kerala together, as many of our planners and ministers and the government says, that Kerala together constitute a large urban conglomerate. So Vizhinjam, there is no separation between Vizhinjam and Kochi. Both together can add to the industrialization and rapid growth of the state. So that is the viewpoint at this point. Maybe though currently the enabling infrastructure is not good, I am hopeful that it may come in the near. Thank you, sir. That is my preliminary viewpoints.
Sir, one question to you. So you mentioned already that you have a very well-developed ecosystem for the bunkering, and you are already handling about 500,000 tons per year, which is likely to be scaled up. Now, the world, we read in public domain that the world is fast changing or moving towards all kinds of green fuels and green energy. Now, we also know that Cochin Airport here is 100% dependent on solar energy for all its power requirements. So can you give some insights on the greening initiatives of Cochin Port Authority and how far it could have a local economic impact?
Yeah, it is a fact that the entire world is moving towards green energy because of the environmental impact that is developed because of the fossil fuel-based energy that we are using today. Cochin Airport is a role model for the entire world as to how one entity can be completely self-sufficient with its own energy when it is planned properly at the conceptual stage itself. So the Green Energy Initiative with respect to Cochin Port, our entire container terminal is completely free from any diesel-operated crane or diesel-operated key cranes. So the entire infrastructure is on electricity, partly with the solar energy generated inside, and also we are in the process of acquiring the requisite green energy from the grid. Because the area available within Kerala as a whole and Cochin in particular, to develop solar power is very limited because the land is very costly. It may not be economical to use the land for creating solar power. So in Cochin port, we have come out with a unique idea of floating solar. Our water is very tranquil water, very calm. So we have already floated a tender for 1.5 megawatt green power. Another 3.5 megawatt of green power on our Vembanad Lake area, where it is a specific area is absolutely calm. Whatever may be the wave on the sea, but inside it is very calm. So that area we are planning to develop around 3.5 megawatt, totally 3.5 plus 1.5, 5 megawatt of solar energy we'll be creating on the sea. Plus an additional 1.5 to 2 megawatt of powers that we are generating in the island. Also another 2 megawatt we'll be developing in Ayyappan area. So this is the solar ecosystem that we'll be generating. And with respect to the green fuel today we are talking about is green hydrogen, methanol. So the green hydrogen and methanol, if we have to make it green, then again solar energy is required, which we have to take it from national grid only because we don't have space. Like Kandla in Gujarat, they have lakhs of acres which has been given on contract for developing green fuel. So, but that sort of luxury is not there in Cochin, where land is very, very high value item, commodity. So here we are in the process of maybe developing a green hydrogen and methanol based project in which the electricity we have to take it from the grid only. So we'll not be able to do that. But we are planning to have, we have a huge LNG facility. So LNG facility of around 4.32 storage capacity that we have with a capacity of 5 million cargo throughput, which currently we are operating at about 1. Once the national grid is connected to Bangalore via Salem, then our offtake will increase to about 2.5 to 3 million ton. But that LNG facility we will be using for bunkering. So today, all the vessels, as we are aware, are being mostly constructed with LNG fueling because of the environmental consciousness that all of us are having. The shipbuilders are moving towards LNG. So we will be having over and above our fossil fuel bunkering that we are doing, but we will also be doing the LNG bunkering. So that will be a game changer. Today, if the vessel starts from Rotterdam with LNG fuel, it has to go to Singapore. In between, we don't have the LNG bunkering facility. So that will be one of the important initiatives that we'll be taking towards green energy. So in total, we will have solar energy, green energy, primarily to demonstrate the technology and to evolve the process, and then LNG bunkering will grow multifold in the years to come. So this will be our overall green energy perspective.
Just one additional question to you, sir. As far as I know, no other major port in India, the last mile connectivity comes by waterways, except Kochi. Already probably a good part of your solids, you're moving to FACT by NH3, National Waterway 3, which is something unique to Kochi. Now, what is your take on it? You know, Kerala is blessed with a lot of waterways, and as far as I understand, transportation by water will cost about 60% of your railway freight and about 40% of the truck freight. So that's the most cost-effective solution. So is it possible, have you done some study on, you know, making better use of the waterways in Kerala for moving? I understand that recently you have had some success with the Kottayam port, where at least some minuscule quantity of the containers have been moving from Kottayam to Vallarpadam. So what is your take on it? Is it a practical solution for Kerala? And maybe in that case, would it be possible to distribute the manufacturing into different parts of the state?
So predominantly our cargo movement through barges in NW3 used to be prominent in the past from Alleppey as well as from Kottayam. Even though national waterways have handled about 2.8 million tons of cargo during the last year, but hardly exact number I don't have. We get few barges from these places to Cochin port, which needs to be now augmented. So these waterways from Kollam to the Kottapuram, no, it is a Kottapuram. So this waterways of 225 kilometer length is a very good channel that we have. I would also work along with our terminal as to how we can maximize this water channel, which had certain challenges in the past. Now they are maintaining the channel with the 2-meter draft with the proper maintenance dredging in the channel. And also whatever the bottleneck they had in Chavara area, about 1.2 kilometers, that also they are now making it operational. Further, they are planning to extend from Kottapuram to Calicut. So that is, the project is almost in the final stage where they will start working on this project. Then that will make the entire cargo movement from Kollam to Calicut through Cochin will be a reality, and it will definitely add value to these ports like Kottayam Port, Alleppey, and Calicut. That ecosystem will develop because it will be like Cochin Port initiated or triggered development in these areas can happen when we are able to take more cargo from these ports through waterways. And also the RoRo, which is there in our Cochin area, where from Wellington Island to the Vallarpadam terminal, we are using waterways to move the cargo. But definitely Kerala, with a vast coastline, enabled with excellent, effective inland waterway management, we are in good time for getting most of the cargo transported through waterways when there is a congestion in the roadways. So we will have a good fortunate, and we did have very good fortunes in the past, and we are developing it. And really, Indian Waterways Authority, Inland Waterways Authority, is doing their best to ensure that wherever there are the bridges, there are certain bridges, the height is low. How to increase that also they are working on it. So this entire inland waterway will become without any hindrance, and it will definitely add value to our entire maritime ecosystem.
Sunil, coming over to you. Now you are a fledgling port, you just commissioned, you've become operational, you understand the limitations in terms of the infrastructure, the lack of logistics infrastructure. Now, what is your take on the human resource availability in the state? Does it cater to the unique requirements of the modern port infrastructure? Does it cater to the requirements of the modern upcoming logistics, from 3PL to moving on to 4, 5? So, the world is transforming rapidly. Are you getting the right kind of resources for your growth requirements? Or do you have any long-term plans to address, if there are any gaps, to address those gaps? Can you throw some insight into it?
Good question, sir. Actually, I was about to deliberate on that. Before that, I would answer one more thing which I actually missed in the last question. Other than the outer area growth corridor, government is also planning a triangle, Vizhinjam, Kollam, Punalur triangle, which is funded by KIFBI, and an amount of rupees 1,000 crore is earmarked for land acquisition only. So we are also hopeful on that development also for the regional development part. Coming to this question on skill development, here also the PPPs, the beauty of PPP work, like Vizhinjam, even though it being a strategic advantage, it was not a financially standalone viable project. So both the three governments, Government of Kerala, Government of India, and private partner, two governments and a private partner come together and made it realized. Like that, in the skill development sector also, we worked along with the Government of Kerala, along with your team, and developed an ecosystem there where we could skill the youth there. with the help of ASAP, Additional Skill Acquisition Program, it is a program run by Government of Kerala with the funding of ADB. Government has set up a facility at Vizhinjam, which is now operational. And that facility is run, the skill partner of that facility is Adani Skill Development Center, and we are running port-related skills there. And we are able to train people from the local youth and from the region itself. Many are from the local and many are from the region. We are able to train the people, youngsters from the area, and very talented female students, female employees were taken, and they were taken on roll, given training, and they are now operating cranes. That is also one beauty of automation which actually happened at the port. Because of automation, the gender equalization has also happened very tremendously in the port. Earlier, there were very less number of females in the operation of ports or operation of cranes. But with the kind of automation which we happened, we were able to find females also who are willing to work in cranes. So that made the change, and we were able to find people, and we were able to skill. We are continuously skilling the youth of the area. One good thing which is again happening is that they are not only getting job at Vizhinjam, they are getting opportunity abroad also in the same, like the facilities, with similar facilities they are getting jobs. So that way, along with the government, we could work positively in skilling. Thank you, sir.
Again to Sunil, because you are sitting bang on the busiest maritime highway. The other day I happened to hear a news that, a mother vessel which came to drop cargo at Vizhinjam and pick up cargo, she moved to Colombo to fill fuel. So that's very ironical. So the port has become a reality. Now, what are your plans with respect to bunkering?
At present, we don't have any, as I was earlier mentioning, the lack of land is a reason for creating such infrastructure for bunkering. At this point of time, we are not planning any bunkering, though Adani bunkering team is evaluating the possibility of starting bunkering here. And also other private players are also, other private as well as public players are also evaluating. Maybe in the phase 2, with the development, in the phase 2, along with the 1,200-meter container berth, we are also developing 2 multi-purpose berths of 600 meter each and a liquid berth. Along with the phase 2 development, we may consider bunkering at a larger scale. Maybe now we may be doing it with the barges and all. But at this point of time, we haven't started. We may start in near future with the bunkers. Maybe in the second phase, we will be doing it in a big way or in a moderate way.
Sir, one question to you, sir. Now you have your Vallarpadam, which is operated by DP World. And, in recent years, it has been showing a growing trend. But if you analyze the cargo, it's mostly gateway, though originally it was India's first container transshipment terminal. Now it is more of 90% gateway, and the remaining is transshipment. My question is, what percentage of cargo in Vallarpadam would be generated in Kerala or will be coming to Kerala? It must be a very small percentage, maybe 10% of the total container movement. Now, does Cochin Port Authority, do you have a plan to create a captive, something we heard about JNPA having that port-led SEZ, which they have created. Do you have any plans to create an industrial ecosystem which would leverage on the port infrastructure in Vallarpadam, which would add value in terms of employment generation locally, which will create more cargo movement from within the state of Kerala?
Yeah, so with respect to the total EXIM cargo that we handle, the cargo overall total volume, import and export together, about 70%, I think Dipin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, about 70% is from Kerala. So, because consumption as well as whatever is getting exported, when we say export, one is export to foreign and export to other coastal states. So all put together, it is around 70% total export and import that we have with respect to EXIM cargo. But with respect to industrialization, within the Cochin port area, the scope is very limited because the free land that we have for any development is about 150 acres, which is more towards creating an ecosystem for ship repair facility, capacity building, creating a training infrastructure by which the entire seafarers as well as shipbuilders, there is a collaboration which we are likely to enter into with CSL to improve the capacity building system. And we have an free trade warehouse within our Vallarpadam terminal, which can be used effectively by the exporters and importers to derive the benefit of the FTW set. Also, Vallarpadam is in the process of expanding that from doubling the capacity to quadrupling the capacity that they are working on. But as far as industrialization is concerned, it has to happen outside the port limit, where the government, state, central, and the prospective investors are working together to create an electronic manufacturing cluster in the system. So that will definitely, as and when it happens, the land acquisition is almost in the last stage. When the investment happens, maybe 5 years down the line, then we will have adequate cargo to infuse into the Cochin port with respect to EXIM. With respect to transshipment, yes, in India, ICTT was the first transshipment terminal created with a hope and ambition to challenge Colombo. So though we created our ecosystem in terms of creating a cost competitiveness, but we could not succeed to compete or to challenge Colombo till now. So one of the challenges we had is the limited draft that we have of 14.5, in which mother vessels are finding it difficult to come. So we are working on to increase immediately to 16 meter. So for which already we are on the action. So with 16 meters, definitely our stake, both in EXIM as well as in transshipment, will improve, and that will make Cochin Vallarpadam terminal more vibrant, and it will also result in additional investment to increase the capacity, because definitely the EXIM capacity, EXIM cargo will increase, transshipment also will increase in the years to come. So accordingly, the port and DP World together will work on improving the capacity as well as the utilization.
I think we have heard both the experts very comprehensively. You know, in the previous session, I happened to be a listener. I was listening to them discussing about Singapore, about the new port of Tuas, or about the various ports in South China Sea. You know, even before thinking that big, you know, I would like to share some of the developments in Colombo itself. Colombo is a classic case study for the state of Kerala, or even for that matter, for the whole country, where a port ecosystem, where, you know, they started small in the early 80s, when in the late 80s, when I was personally running an industry and exporting cargo, you know, that is the time I learned that, you know, the cargo doesn't move directly the way you learn in your school geography. You know, from my factory in Trivandrum, I had to send it to Thoothukudi. From Thoothukudi, it used to sail after a week to Colombo, where it lies for weeks together, and then finally a large vessel takes it across to Dubai, which was my ultimate destination. Now, those times I used to frequently travel to Colombo, and the port infrastructure was probably much smaller than what Vizhinjam is today. I'm talking about the late 80s. But today, over the last 30, 35 years, Colombo has grown to a scale, something which is equivalent to Mundra or JNPA, where they handle about 7 million TEU per year, of which about 75% is transshipment from India and neighboring South Asian countries. But the beauty of it is, as Colombo grew as a transshipment hub, they also developed an industrial ecosystem around Colombo within Sri Lanka, where, they themselves now have about 1.5 million TEUs of gateway cargo every year, which is not a very small quantity for a small country like Sri Lanka, which has got a population which is just 2/3 that of Kerala and a land area which is close to Tamil Nadu's area. So they have planned it well. They had a roadmap laid down, and they have came to this level where they generate 1.5 million TEUs of gateway cargo movement. And that is a model which we could, because, the beauty of these two ports is unbelievable. Cochin, within this Vembanad Lake ecosystem, you have everything that is required in the maritime sector. They handle liquids, they handle container, they have a very well-developed shipbuilding and ship repair facility. They have the cruise terminal, which is probably today India's second largest, I believe, or even the largest.
In terms of the facilities and the ambience, international cruise tourism at Cochin is #1. Even though in terms of capacity, Mumbai has developed a new cruise terminal, but in terms of operational flexibility and the passenger satisfaction, cruise tourist satisfaction, Cochin is #1 as we take the feedback from every captain who comes here in the cruise vessels. We had handled around 68,000 cruise tourists last year, and the satisfaction level is extremely high. And the cruise, which used to be only foreign in the past till before pre-COVID, it got increased. The domestic tourist also has increased. That shows the spending power of Indian economy. So now, previously only 60+ people used to travel in cruise because number of days people cannot afford to travel. But nowadays, if you take the average, global average of cruise tourists, it is around 45 years. So a lot of youngsters are taking time off from their burnout schedule to cool themselves in the ocean-going vessels, and the percentage is increasing, the spending power is increasing. Indian tourist alone today contributes about more than 50% of the tourism that is happening in Cochin Port, as well as supported by Marmogova, Mangalore, and then primarily at Mumbai. So this is the ecosystem on cruise tourism.
Okay, so together these two ports, they are two ends of the spectrum, but these two could be the catalyst for a total economic transformation, not just for Kerala, because, as you all know, all the neighboring South Indian states are booming in terms of economic growth. They are booming in terms of a export-driven, internationally focused industrial ecosystem. So both Kochi as well as Vizhinjam together should be a game changer. Collectively, it could be a game changer for the whole of peninsular India, and that would translate into economic benefit for all the neighboring regions around. Thank you very much, gentlemen.